Electric toy trains before Lionel? On this episode of Toy Train Tips and Tricks. We all know the story of how young Joshua Lionel Cowen began manufacturing electric toy trains in 1901, and how the company he founded went on to become America's greatest toy train company. But what about electric trains before Lionel? Wait, you ask, electric trains before Lionel? Yes, there were several firms, both in Europe and America, that beat Lionel to the punch in producing electric toy trains. And I recently had the opportunity to see some of these early trains at the current office and manufacturing facility of the company that made them more than a century ago, Carlisle and Finch. Keep in mind as you view the photos in this video that the facility is an active office and factory, and most of the trains and other artifacts are displayed in various places throughout the facility: the lobby, conference rooms, and a small display area. And since I visited the facility on a regular workday for the company, conditions were not ideal for photography, with the room lighting often casting reflections on the glass display cases. Still, I thought documenting the trains on display was a worthy enough endeavor to offset these difficulties. Carlisle and Finch was founded in 1894 in Cincinnati, Ohio, by Robert S. Finch and Morton Carlisle. The company initially operated as a repair shop for electrical machinery under General Electric, before transitioning into manufacturing. One of the company's early projects was repairing the armatures on the electric trolleys operated by the city of Cincinnati. So it was only natural that when the company was looking to expand into manufacturing, an electric toy trolley was a natural choice. And so in 1896, the number 1 electric railway, featuring a 2-inch gauge brass and wood 4-wheel trolley, was introduced, making Carlisle and Finch the first American firm, and depending on your information source, possibly the world's first producer of toy electric trains. Early versions of the trolley operated on 3-rail track, but the firm quickly transitioned to 2-rail track. It is estimated that some 500 examples of the number 1 trolley were sold in 1896, with none of the 3-rail versions known to survive. The number 1 trolleys were 7.5 inches long and were propelled by a non-reversing 10-volt DC 2-pole motor. Early models were lettered with printed paper stickers, but by 1903 the firm began decorating all of its models by embossing the brass shells. Carlisle and Finch doubled down on their early success, and some 4,000 more examples of the number 1 trolley were sold in 1897, and it remained in production through at least 1907. Also in 1897, the firm added the number 2 trolley, also called an interurban by some. This double-truck, 12-inch long brass trolley was modeled after Cincinnati streetcars and featured an optional manual reverse for the twin 2-pole motors. Both the number 1 and number 2 trolleys could be found with optional non-powered trailer cars as well. Like the number 1, early decoration was provided by a paper electric railway label under the windows, which eventually changed to embossed brass. The number 2 trolley was cataloged through 1902, when a new and improved version carried the model forward through 1915. In 1898, the number 3 coal mining set joined the line. This moderately priced set featured a simple trapezoidal mining locomotive and 3 ore cars. Later, the ore cars were redesigned so they could actually dump their loads on the side of the track. By 1899, the drive was changed to include a new 3-pole motor and cut gears, along with a manual reversing switch. Like Carlisle and Finch's other trains, early examples featured paper labels which later changed to enamel and then fully embossing. By 1911, the shape of the locomotive was redesigned to be more rounded. This set became the backbone of Carlisle and Finch train production, initially priced at $350 for a complete set with locomotive, cars, track, and either an original wet cell battery components or later dry cell batteries. The set was produced through at least 1913 and possibly into 1916. In late 1898, Carlisle and Finch began production of their first train, Dud, the number 4 incline railway. This model was inspired by Cincinnati's inclined railways, and the firm thought this unique model would set them apart from other manufacturers. But after only 120 or so examples were produced, the firm pulled the plug on the model in 1899, and none are known to exist today. But like a phoenix rising from the ashes, another number 4 model began production in late 1899, the firm's first steam locomotive. This 040 with tender featured the firm's new 3-pole motor with brass double reduction spur gears. The tender included a paper label for the Lakeshore and Michigan Southern Railway, later part of the New York Central system, and either a 3-car passenger consist with a baggage and 2 coaches, or a freight set with a yellow number 12 boxcar, often labeled for the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy, a red number 11 gondola, usually lettered for the Pennsylvania Railroad, and a number 46 red caboose. By the way, Carlisle Finch offered items in various colors and road names under the same catalog numbers, with the number on the item usually not matching the catalog number. The firm used many contemporary road names on its train items. In addition to those already mentioned, items lettered for the Hocking Valley, later part of the Chesapeake and Ohio, plus Baltimore and Ohio, New York Central and Hudson River, and Union Pacific were featured. Some models are also lettered N and M, which may have been some creative license on the firm's part, as there are no railroads of that period of operations with those reporting marks. In 1900, Carlisle Finch moved to a new, larger manufacturing facility, reflecting the growing success of the firm. Shortly after the move, the firm began making significant improvements to the train line. 1903 was a significant year in the development of Carlisle Finch trains, as the firm had previously used Lincoln pin coupler system on its models, which were now replaced by a new so-called bumper band system. There were also significant upgrades to the number 4 steamer, which now sported a nickel boiler with embossed details, new open cab windows, and new lettering, sporting a number 171 on the cab and often Baltimore and Ohio on the tender. The number 2 trolley was also upgraded to a new massive 19-inch long model with larger motors and, for the first time, side frames on the trucks. This version of the number 2, with slight changes over time, remained in production through 1915. On the other end of the line, a new number 20 040T steamer, also called a Suburban, was introduced. This smaller model was cataloged through 1907. 1904 saw further improvements in the line as the new truck design with side frames and fiber insulating washers replaced the previous open wheels with wood dowel trucks on all freight and passenger cars. Also in 1904, Carlisle Finch introduced the pinnacle of the firm's steam locomotive production, the new number 45 442 Atlantic steamer. The model was 27.5 inches long and weighed in at 13 pounds. This was a scale model with a recommended minimum curve radius of 36 inches. The model featured an upgraded 5-pole motor with a high gear ratio, making it a very smooth runner. In 1904, you could get the locomotive and tender, 36 feet of track and ties, and 9 dry cell batteries for $20, or about $700 in today's currency. This version of the number 45 remained in production until 1908. I'd like to pause a moment and ask that if you're enjoying this video as much as I enjoyed making it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel so that YouTube knows that you like this kind of content. Also, share any stories you might have about Carlisle Finch, Voldamp, Dorfan, or other early toy trains. Now, back to the video. One of the most sought-after sets in the Carlisle Finch line was produced in 1906, the number 88 Railway. This set included a number 45 locomotive and tender, plus a number 51 baggage car, and 2 number 52 coaches, plus track. In 1906, it was cataloged for the princely sum of $36, or around $1,200 in today's currency. The number 42 electric railway was introduced in 1904. This set features a small trolley similar to the number 1, but with a different power truck and motor arrangement, plus a non-powered trailer car. The set also included 9 feet of track and 4 dry cell batteries for a more modest $3.35. In 1905 through 1908, the number 42 trolley was also offered with the number 98 elevated railway system, with the track mounted on 10-inch high cast iron posts. The number 42 trolley remained in production through 1915. 2 other new trolleys joined the line in 1904. The number 18 was a 4-wheel trolley with a 13.5-inch long polished brass body and 4 wide windows. It remained in production through 1913. The other addition was the number 19 Summer Trolley, a 14.5-inch open-sided car with reversible bench seats. It remained in production through 1911. Along with the elevated railway system, in 1905, Carlisle and Finch added trolley poles to the number 19 and 18, renumbering them 99 and 100, and included cast iron line-side poles with brackets to hang overhead wire. By 1908, electric trains and accessories accounted for a full third of the company's revenues. The firm continued upgrading the decoration on its models, and steel became more common as a construction material, replacing the earlier wood and brass elements. Also in 1908, the firm decided to fill a gap in its steam locomotive line between the small number 4 and the massive number 45. The new number 34 Atlantic was 23 inches long for the locomotive and tender. It used the same quality motor and drivers as the larger number 45, but the pilot wheels were smaller and it could handle curves as tight as 18-inch radius. With either B&O or PRR embossed on the tender, the model weighed in at 8 pounds and remained in the catalog through 1915. Carlisle and Finch freight cars came in two basic sizes. The regular size cars included the number 11 gondola, number 12 boxcar, number 46 caboose, number 47 hopper, number 48 stock car, and the number 50 flat car. There were also some extra-large 13-inch freight cars, such as the number 90 gondola, 91 boxcar, and 92 caboose. Also impressive was the number 53 motorized derrick car, an item that was well ahead of its time as an operating car. A number of passenger cars were also offered, often sharing similar traits with the various medium and large-sized trolleys offered by the firm. For the most part, Carlisle and Finch track consisted of long copper strips that the user was required to insert into the slots of included wooden ties. Unlike other firms that made sectional track, Carlisle and Finch believed that these long copper bands provided improved electrical flow to the trains. Later, the firm did offer some prefabricated turnouts and some T-rail track. Carlisle and Finch was an innovator in the toy train hobby, and that they were an early adopter of the concept of providing cars, track, power supplies, and even accessories as a complete railroad set. Among the accessories that were offered were at least 3 different bridges, including a massive number 52 double-track suspension bridge. The firm was also an innovator in the realm of operating accessories. The number 9 Buffalo Railway Station utilized an ingenious electromagnet system to detect the presence of a train and activate the movement of a semaphore on the station roof. The twin semaphore ticket office accessory apparently operated as an automatic stop station. When the operator would set one of the semaphores to the proper position, the train would stop at the station. Since a majority of American households were not wired for electric current until the 1930s, power supply was a problem for the early electric train manufacturers. Initially, Carlisle and Finch suggested the use of wet cell batteries to power their trains. These were not commercially available, but instead were mix-it-yourself items, whereby operators would insert carbon and zinc strips into solutions of bichromate ash and sulfuric acid, usually mixed in a glass jar, and the wires were then attached to the wet cells to the track. Carlisle and Finch simplified the process a bit for their customers by providing pre-coated zinc and carbon strips pre-attached to wood frames for insertion into the jars. By 1902, dry cell battery technology had improved to the point that Carlisle and Finch began providing these to power its trains. Later on, the firm developed a number of hand-cranked or water-powered dynamos to provide the necessary power without the costly batteries. Imagine running your train layout from a garden hose-powered dynamo today. The firm did also make a few trolleys that were designed as store displays, which ran on regular 110-volt AC current. And by 1907, the firm was making a DC transformer, much as we know them today, for use in those households that did have the luxury of electric wiring. By the dawn of the 19-teens, Carlisle and Finch's electric train line was well established and quite profitable. Their trains were expensive compared to other products at the time, but they were known for their excellent craftsmanship and durability. While most other firms were adopting Lionel's 2 1/8-inch standard gauge for their train lines, Carlisle and Finch held firm to their 2-inch gauge models. But events unfolding across the Atlantic would soon impact the world of toy trains. The outbreak of the Great War, as it was known at the time, was initially a boon for American toy train manufacturers, as German competitors like Byng and Märklin fell out of favor. But for Carlisle and Finch, the war to end all wars meant a shift in manufacturing resources away from trains and toward their other flagship product, searchlights. Very good searchlights. And other nautical equipment. By the end of 1915, demand for these products caused the cessation of toy train production, and train sales in 1916 and 1917 were pretty much limited to inventory already on hand. After the war, demand for Carlisle and Finch searchlights, signal lamps, and other nautical devices was such that the firm saw no need to resume toy train production. Even today, every U.S. Navy and U.S. Coast Guard ship carries multiple Carlisle and Finch searchlights, signal lamps, and other appliances as standard equipment. But the train line was not completely forgotten. According to this 1937 letter to noted toy train historian Louis Hertz, the firm produced at least 4 engineering samples for new electric train products in 1932. These cast aluminum trains were very different from the original Carlisle and Finch products. Ultimately, economic conditions during the Great Depression were such that the firm decided against embarking on a new, risky product line, and the prototypes were packed away and eventually were passed out of the firm's hands. Mr. Carlisle sold his share of the company in 1926, but today, under the leadership of the 4th generation of Finches, the firm has a bright future, while still having pride in its past. Because of this, the firm is actively reacquiring pieces of its history, original spotlights, motors, and yes, trains, and displaying them at the firm's Cincinnati facility. Members of the general public are welcome to view the items, but by appointment only. Don't show up unannounced saying, "Where y'all keep the trains?" Remember that the facility is a factory, not a museum, and both common courtesy and safety gear are required for accessing the displays. In fact, the firm may be seeking additional display space that might provide easier access to these historical artifacts. Sources say that the 1932 train samples have been located and may be soon joining the company collection. Also, the firm has made arrangements to acquire the famous 1905-built Elbridge Russell operating Carlisle and Finch layout, transport it, restore it, and make it available for public display as soon as they can find the necessary real estate for the large layout. So now, more than 100 years since the last Carlisle and Finch electric train left its Cincinnati, Ohio factory, the legacy of these trains lives on, and their history is preserved now more than ever. And if you should happen to run across an old Carlisle and Finch train, motor, or searchlight, give the factory a call. They might just make you an offer. Keep the trains running, and we'll catch you next time with more toy train tips and tricks.